And the next speaker is my very dear brother from the other part of the world where I exist today. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Byron Eugene Price. Dr. Price is a public administration professor at Medgar Evers College of the City University of New York in Brooklyn. He is the former dean of the School of Business at Medgar Evers and the former Lillie and Nathan Ackerman Chair of Social Justice at Baruch College. He's an endowed visiting professor, position housed in Center, Equality, Pluralism, and Policy. He formerly served as the director of the Barbara Jordan Institute of Policy Research, as an associate professor of the political science in the Barbara Jordan Mickey Leland School of Public Affairs in Texas Southern University in Houston, Texas. Dr. Price spent 5 years at Rutgers University-Newark, here where I am, at the School of Public Affairs and Administration, where he served as an assistant professor of public administration. During his time at Rutgers, he directed the MPA and the executive MPA program and several other leadership positions, including serving as the director of National Center of Public Performance and editor-in-chief of the Journal of the Public Management and Social Policy. It is my pleasure to welcome my very dear brother, also a member of the Circle of Trust in the African Views world, Dr. Byron E. Price. Please take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wale. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, friends. I'm happy to be here. I listened to the presentations, and I'm one of the ones that's been to like about 40 different African countries. And I've been to every continent except for Antarctica and Australia. And I've been to every state in the United States. And I think one of the things that Africa suffers from is the fact that other people tell Africa's story. And far too often, Africans don't tell their story. Because just like African Americans in the US, we don't really get to tell our stories. And the people that tell our stories focus on our pathologies as opposed to our strengths and so forth. And so we will continue to hear those things. In my opinion, the United States is a third world country. I've seen how COVID has sort of, and I'm gonna get to my talk, but I've seen how COVID has sort of underscored our inadequate inadequate health facilities. Chief Anita talked about health out there, but we have poor health care in the United States. Only not very many, a few Americans access quality health. There's a lot of inadequate health. There's a lot of inequality. We have many of the same things that our African brothers and sisters have, except for I think the difference from us, we can get credit cards a lot easier than our African brothers and sisters. So that's why we seem to live a little better. But I think one of the things I want to talk about is why Dr. Wale asked me to be here, is to talk about some of those partnerships and opportunities for Africans to sort of like increase more entrepreneurs. I know Tony Elumelu out of Nigeria has set aside $100 million to sort of cultivate African entrepreneurs. So that's one of the things I'm working on with the company that wants to do business in Africa. We want to build a graphene facilities in Africa, but I put in the thing about a presentation we're going to be doing that Dr. Wale is going to be speaking on. It's about modern monetary theory, which I think modern monetary theory can solve a lot of Africa problem. And I sort of give you the title of the topic. It's Africa's Path Toward Resilience and Sovereignty. The real Wakanda is within reach. This word Wakanda from the movie The Black Panther. And I want to share with you what the presentation is about and how some of the things I want to bring to the table in collaboration with Dr. Wallet and my African brothers and sisters and people across the diaspora. But the presentation will highlight the the global South or Africa's structural economic deficiencies, which Chief Anita and the Honorable, sure, I might be mispronouncing the name, forgive me if I am, our first speaker, talk about lack of food and energy sovereignty and the dominance of extractive and low value added industries. And I'll talk on July 27th, 2021 at 10 a.m. We're going to look at how modern monetary theory will demonstrate that the traditional policy prescriptions of foreign direct investment, tourism, export-led growth, remittances, and financial liberalizations are in fact structural traps that perpetuate and exacerbate Africa's external debt and dependence on the global north. And we're going to also highlight in this presentation, in this talk, where we're going to introduce an alternative economic development vision, which is going to be informed by modern monetary theory. And we're going to show a pathway towards food, energy, security, full employment, resilience, and higher degrees of monetary economic sovereignty. So I'll give you a few things about modern monetary theory. I'm going to talk about some of the things I hope to bring because of some funding that we're going to be getting soon. Well, modern monetary theory is a big departure from commercial economic theory because it proposes that governments can control their own currency and spend freely as they always can create money to pay off debts in their own currency. I know Dr. Wiley, as an economist, he may be, Dr. Price is crazy talking about we can spend, but I think that's why it's good to have sort of alternative theories because I think under the current frame and system, the global South does not benefit in the current structure of capitalism. So I think we should explore this modern monetary theory idea. And the theory also suggests that government spending can grow the economy to its full capacity to enrich the private sector, eliminate unemployment, and financial major programs such as universal health care, which Chief Anita talked about, free college tuition, and green energy. And Chief Anita also talked about energy, renewable energy. If the spending generates government deficit, this isn't a problem according to modern monetary theory. The government's the government's deficit is by definition the private sector surplus. So when you think about increased government spending, we're not generating inflation as long as there's unused economic capacity on unemployed labor. MMT, or modern monetary theory, proposes it is only when the economy hits physical and natural constraints on productivity, such as full unemployment, that inflation happens, because that is when supply falls and meet the demands of jacking up prices. And as I begin to conclude, modern monetary theory proponents argue that governments can control inflation by spending less or withdrawing money from the economy through taxes. Needless to say, I'm sure many traditional economists will have some issues with this. And so some of the things that I'm engaged in is I was appointed to this board of Novastera Inc. We utilize graphene. Graphene can solve the world's water problems, and we can desalinate water also. And one of the things I've convinced the people that I'm engaged with is that I want to build factories in Africa, and I want Africans to own ownership. You're not going to get 100% ownership if you come in. I've got them to say where they say if we can find partners, be it the government or private investors, we'll build a graphene factory and they can own 49% and we own 51% of the factory, and it's trade on the NASDAQ. So graphene, basically, the reason why graphene is pretty interesting because graphene, not even helium and a lot of the other items on the periodical table can leak through graphene sheets. And so we can store energy, and a lot of African countries have coal, which is considered a dirty fossil fuel, right? And it doesn't meet the Paris Accord. So we also have technology utilizing electrolysis that can help power Africa into the renewable energy industry by capturing hydrogen from coal. And we can burn coal 85% cleaner and 35% hotter, utilizing the electrolysis and capture hydrogen on the front end and the back end of the burn. And we also can clean up the environmental byproducts of coal burning through the coal ash, because with electrolysis, we can extract the rare earth elements of arsenic, sulfur, and mercury. So once you do that, the land becomes nutrient rich again. And then you also have a byproduct, and you can sell those rare earth elements. So the people that I'm working with are willing to sort of help collaborate with African governments and providers. And I told them that one of the things we won't be like the Chinese. I've told them, you will not import labor there. You need to hire people there, the local content. You need to hire there, and we need to build there, and so forth, build the factories there. And they've agreed to do that. And so I got some funding that's coming in, lots of money. I can't talk about it because we filed our S1. We have investors lined up to sort of fund the company. And there's various other projects, also American Resource Corporation that owns 51% of Novastera also has agreed to be partners with African governments and entrepreneurs. And there's also one of our speakers also from South Africa, the Honorable Noble Lumko in Conlo told me, Dr. Price, we need to focus on female entrepreneurs. And I'm committed to that as well. And let's see, a few other things I wanted to talk about is the fact that I do have real opportunities. Oh yeah, like wood pellets, where that's another project. We have waste management equipment. We're getting ready to buy those companies where we'll be able to sort of, you can use a machine and it'll separate all the waste out of, you can just throw the waste in a garbage bag and it'll separate the waste, and have wood pellets, which is another renewable energy. So I'm going to be able to bring a couple of projects to the table for consideration, coming through Dr. Wale, to sort of look for partners and investors, and it's real, and we want partners, because I think far too often people come in and they own 100% of African resources and so forth. And the people I've been dealing with, they want to find partners, investors, government investors. And also if you have projects, one of my colleagues, he's willing to sort of collaborate and look at taking it public as well, if it's a viable product and project. So I think my contribution, when you think about peace and prosperity, I think the most important thing is we got to create jobs and entrepreneurs in Africa. And when you think about agri-processing and agribusiness, I think Africans need to eat what they grow and grow what they eat. And so they need to build up their system. And we also work with green farming. So I have a lot of vehicles to sort of partner with our African colleagues and our brothers and sisters. And within the next month or two, I should have money, significant money, through the partnerships that I've been working with, to sort of bring to the table to discuss viable businesses that we can partner with Africans on. So I close there, and if there are questions or concerns, then I'd be happy to sort of address them, Dr. Wiley.
Thank you so very much. Just want to remind everyone to please mute your microphone if you're not speaking. That's very important. I want us to have a really good discussion, and it's also a serious challenge if we have to edit that out. Thank you so much, Dr. Price. Amazing and very hopeful presentation. I want you to do me a favor. You cannot talk of Africans as external from you, okay?
Oh, well, I didn't mean it that way, because I think you've been around me enough to know I consider myself African. So I didn't mean it that way. I apologize sincerely. I didn't mean it that way. You're so busy being a professor, I'm very sorry, but I'm definitely African.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you. Yes. Well, it's important that we look at it as those are, those Africans on the continent, and so on and so forth. But anyway, you come into Africa next time we go in, so that we confirm that that necessary ceremony. It's not initiation, it's homecoming. It's family. So, all right. Is there any question for Dr. Price? Anyone? Before we move on. All right. So if there is no question for Dr. Price, we will move on. And obviously, after all the speakers, we will also revisit the possible questions